Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe for more amazing content. Let's get into it. The story begins inside a spaceship in outer space, hovering in front of a mysterious planet. The captain of the ship asks her crew member Sunja if they are at the correct location, as it seems they might be lost. Sunja reassures her that they are indeed at the right place. The planet in front of them is planet number 177 Earth. Another crew member, Robert, finds the situation strange because, although they are in the correct location, the planet is drenched in radiation and lacks even a trace of oxygen. The captain struggles to believe that a high-value criminal, a high-ranking member of the Black Blood Gang, could be hiding in such an inhospitable place. She is quite annoyed, thinking Robert might have given her false intel. However, Robert insists the intel is accurate, explaining that it was obtained when Hao Moon raided the main system of the beggar sect. The captain then asks Sunja for his opinion. Sunja, while continuing his repairs, mentions that if Hao Moon truly came to Earth, it would be a suicidal mission. The oxygen saturation of Earth is at 23.76%, and the radiation contamination level is at 87 sieverts, making it a perfect place to die. The captain questions if it is possible for a human to survive there. Sunja responds that with a top-notch radiation shield and a high-capacity internal energy drive that spans multiple cycles, someone might survive for about 6 hours. The captain then sternly asks Robert if he is willing to stake his life on the intel he received. Robert hesitates, unable to commit, but the captain is not interested in his hesitation. She warns him that if the criminal they seek isn't there, he'll be in serious trouble. Sunja interrupts, reporting that a human life sign has been detected below the surface of Earth, prompting them to embark on the hunt for the criminal. Robert and the captain land on Earth at the location where life was detected, while Sunja remains aboard the ship, monitoring and providing intel. Earth has transformed into a wasteland, devoid of life, and the location they stand at is known as Mount Tai. The captain is surprised to see the legendary Mount Tai before her. Sunja explains that it is the origin of the Mount Tai star system, a place revered by the Martial Alliance as a legendary sanctuary. The captain finds it hard to believe that the trash dump in front of her was once a sacred ground, and mocks the Martial Alliance for not cleaning up their so-called sanctuary. Robert agrees, noting that the Martial Alliance is all talk and no action. Sunja then informs the captain that she is standing at the exact spot where the life sign was detected. The captain, skeptical, asks if he's sure, and Sunja confirms it's right below her. She kneels down and places her hand on the ground. Robert, curious, asks what she's planning to do. She responds that whatever is down there must still be alive, but if she were buried there, she would have suffocated long ago. She then activates her internal energy drive, causing a massive explosion from beneath the ground. Covered in dust, Robert complains that she should give him a heads up next time. The hole left by the explosion is deep, and the captain asks Sunja if there are still signs of life. Sunja replies that the life sign is faint but still present, and there is a large space below. Robert suggests using an electronic ladder to descend, but the captain impulsively dives in. Robert sighs, remarking on her hot temper, and follows her down. Underground, they find a massive door with a sentence inscribed on it by someone named Lee Mokjin. Robert cannot decipher the ancient language, so the captain asks Sunja to translate. Sunja explains that the inscription dates back 2,000 years and reads, "The world fears me, and imprisoned me with the great Dharma teachings. If you clumsily try to awaken me, death will greet you first." The captain considers this a warning not to open the door, but she sees it as a good sign. There must be something valuable inside. Despite the warning, she pushes the door open. They are shocked to find a figure sitting at the top of a staircase. Though it looks human, they cannot be sure. The captain, curious, climbs the stairs to get a closer look. The figure's face is covered in a thick beard, and it sits with its legs crossed. Robert questions if it is alive or even human, doubting that it could survive after being buried for 2,000 years. The captain doesn't respond. She extends her finger to touch the figure's nose, expecting no reaction. But to her surprise, there is a sudden electric spark. Shocked, she feels an overwhelming bloodlust emanating from the figure and immediately activates her magic power to counterattack. However, her efforts are in vain. A massive outburst of magic power erupts from the figure, shooting through the hole they made earlier and into space, almost destroying their ship in the process. Sunja, unaware of what's happening, frantically asks the captain for an update but gets no response. The room is filled with dust, and as it settles, the captain coughs up blood, having sustained internal injuries from the explosion. She looks around in disbelief to find Robert lying unconscious on the ground. The mysterious figure suddenly appears in front of her, demanding to know who dared to awaken him. The captain, still in shock, cannot reply. The figure wonders if she has come to challenge him, pondering whether a martial artist capable of challenging him has finally been born. The captain, unable to understand his words, activates a real-time translation mode. The figure raises his hand, preparing to kill her if she doesn't answer his question. Realizing the danger, the captain activates her powers to block the impending attack. The collision of their powers is intense. She uses all her energy to fend off the attack, but is left gasping for breath, with no strength left to endure another strike. Her system warns her that her energy drive is overloaded and needs recharging. Despite expending all her energy, the figure remains unfazed. He recognizes the captain's techniques as the Quantum Golden Summit Divine Art and the Red Mist Divine Palm, both martial arts of the EMA sect, though her versions are impure, suggesting she learned them through theft. The figure is furious, floating above her as he condemns her for disturbing his eternal sleep. The captain is paralyzed with fear, unable to defend herself against such a terrifying being, but suddenly the figure collapses. Confused, the captain watches as Robert regains consciousness and remarks that the figure must have died from radiation exposure without a shielding field. However, Sunja reports that the figure is still alive, with normal breathing and pulse. The captain is stunned and wonders why the figure collapsed. Sunja explains that it seems the figure's energy was depleted, and it fainted from hunger. Hours later, aboard their ship, Robert is incredulous that the captain brought the figure on board instead of leaving it behind. He argues that she should have left it on Earth, especially after witnessing its earlier berserk state, which he compares to a cockroach exposed to radiation, except that even a radioactive cockroach would be worth something, unlike this monster. The captain calmly replies that the figure is worth money and lots of it, leaving Robert and Sunja baffled by what she means. She said to them, "What is the most valuable cultural heritage today?" Sunja replied, "Ancient martial arts. The closer to the original, the more expensive it is." She told him that he was right, and judging by the circumstances, the person was likely an ancient martial artist from 2,000 years ago. That period was legendary, a time when martial arts were highly developed. Even the lowest class F-grade techniques from that era fetch at least 10,000 credits. But this person wasn't just an F-grade, he was an unimaginable grandmaster, at least S rank or higher. Robert was quite surprised. If the person was truly S rank, they'd be hitting the jackpot. But the question lingered, what if he wakes up? The captain boastfully reassured him, "Don't worry, what I used to bind him is celestial silkworm thread, used for spaceship repairs. Even the head of the Shaolin sect couldn't cut it." But to her shock, the person cut through it easily. He furiously said, exuding a terrifying killing intent, "How dare you lowly grave-robbing thieves try to desecrate me? I will tear you to shreds." The captain and Robert immediately took defensive positions, but to their surprise, Sunja appeared before the person with a tray filled with sausages. They couldn't believe their eyes, but surprisingly enough, the person's anger calmed down as he aggressively munched on the sausage. They all stood back, watching him eat. The captain then asked Sunja how he came up with such an idea. Sunja replied, "He's been starving for a long time, so the best thing for a hungry beast is sausage." Hours later, the captain explained everything to the person. They told him that they weren't grave robbers, but bounty hunters who accidentally woke him up. Now this is the world 2,000 years after his time. Humans, after harming each other to no end, destroyed the world and decided to live in the skies. Although things have stabilized since then, they decided not to allow any weapons, including nuclear weapons-only martial arts. The person was surprised, having no idea what a nuclear weapon was. He then asked her what this current era is called. She replied, "This era is the year 1105 of the galactic calendar." The man was stunned. "Galactic? Does that mean you all live in the sky?" The captain replied, "Yes. You're quite lucky since you woke up after 2,000 years. You should be immensely grateful." The person lashed out, "Talk respectfully. I'm not someone you should address so casually. Do you wish to die since third-rate grave robbers like you dared to deceive me?" But they all pointed outside the ship. The person looked out and couldn't believe his eyes. The captain then told him, "That place over there is where you lived, but now it's totally ruined." She patted him on the head saying, "Now that you've seen it, do you believe us?" But the person replied, still exuding killing intent, "Even if I want to believe, I can't. There's no way I can believe that the land I'm standing on is round." The captain was disappointed at his astonishing ignorance. Suddenly, Robert smelled something disgusting coming from the person's body. The captain closed her nose and told him, "You'll learn the rest later, but first, take a shower. Maybe trim your hair in the process since we'll be staying together for a while." The person had no idea what she meant by shower, so she explained that he needed to bathe. Hours passed, and they all stood in front of the door, waiting for him to come out of the shower. Robert told the captain that she should have just let him leave his hair as it was, since he was scared something mummified might come out. But to their surprise, the person emerged as a handsome man with chiseled muscles cleaning his hair. He then asked if there was more of what he ate earlier, but they couldn't reply immediately. They were still in disbelief. The captain stammered, "Who are you?" Hours later, they rode their ship through the Milky Way. The protagonist was mesmerized by the view in front of him. It didn't seem like the sky at all. Although he had once lamented the world's narrowness, he never expected it to be so vast and strange. The captain then pinched his cheek and asked, "How old are you? Just so you know, hibernation age doesn't count." Some minutes later, in a cluster of stars within the Milky Way, inside an asteroid space tavern called the Wild Crane Inn, our protagonist was aggressively eating sausages. Robert couldn't believe that a human could eat so much. Sunja reminded him that the protagonist had starved for 2,000 years. Robert quipped, "So, he has to eat 2,000 years worth of food?" Sunja replied, "Judging by his eating, that might be the case." As our protagonist finished eating his sausages, in another scene, the captain went to meet the Wild Crane Inn's keeper, popularly known as Wang the 18th. She told him that she was looking for a broker one who must be rich and tough because what she was about to sell was extremely expensive and valuable. Wang smoked his pipe and asked, "How expensive must it be for you to be so frantic?" She replied, "How much would a full collection of 2,000-year-old martial arts manuscripts be worth if they were all originals and all S-rank?" Wang was taken aback by what she said. Some minutes later, when she left the room, there was a moment of silence. One of Wang's guards asked if what she said was real. If it was, S-rank originals from 2,000 years ago must be incredibly valuable. But Wang told her it was worth 0 credits because if such things existed, one book alone could buy a planet and more. Yet a mere mid-tier bounty hunter like her claimed to have found a bunch of them. He deemed what she said nonsense and told his guard to kick them out. The captain returned to her crew's table and asked Robert where Sunja had gone. Robert replied, "She went to buy supplies." He then asked the captain if the talk was successful. The captain replied excitedly, "It went well. He said he would contact us immediately when he finds a buyer." She glanced at the protagonist and was surprised to see that he had eaten all the food by himself. Robert informed her that he had just stopped at that moment. The captain didn't know how to express herself. If it weren't for the potential money, she would have abandoned him. Suddenly the door opened, and people in purple and black, looking majestic and mysterious, entered. The captain was surprised to see them. They were people from the Heavenly Demon Sect. The big guy looked around, scanning the area with a device over one eye. The captain and Robert observed him sneakily, recognizing him as Sanshan Wu, the leader of the Red Wolf Squad. Robert was surprised to see the Red Wolf Squad, as they are the inspectors of the Demon Sect. He had no idea why they were here. The captain explained that they specialize in tracking, so they must be pursuing someone. She warned Robert not to make eye contact as it would be troublesome. Our protagonist asked if the demon sect she mentioned could be the Heavenly Demon Sect. She responded nonchalantly, questioning how he knew about the Heavenly Demon Sect when he had been asleep for 2,000 years, or if it even existed back then. He didn't reply but was surprised that people weren't fleeing. If they were truly demon sect members, panic should have ensued. The captain explained that there was no reason to flee, as the Heavenly Demon Sect, despite its quirks, prided itself as the foremost orthodox sect in the entire universe, and indeed they were the best. Our protagonist was in disbelief that the Heavenly Demon Sect had become an orthodox sect. He was happy, realizing that his long-held, seemingly impossible dream had finally come true. Meanwhile, Sen Shanwu was searching the inn for someone. Some people looked at him confidently, while others hid their faces. He approached a man hiding his face, ordering him to look up. The man complied, and San Shanwu's scanner displayed his details. A male with an internal energy of 52.7 Celsius, possessing a 5-star Blackbird martial art, and wanted for robbery and assault, making him a level 2 criminal. San Shanwu told the man that today was his lucky day since he wasn't their target, but advised him to turn himself in to the Martial Alliance or face consequences. However, something unexpected happened. Our protagonist patted the man's head, elated that his distant dream had become a reality through the younger generation. Everyone in the inn was shocked, unable to believe what was happening. Our protagonist admired the younger generation's accomplishments, hugging the man's head and expressing sympathy for the hardships they must have endured to achieve such stature. San Shanwu, holding back his anger, asked the inn's occupants if the protagonist had intelligence issues. Robert stuttered, stepping forward to explain that the protagonist didn't have intelligence issues, but that his social skills were lacking. San Shanwu warned the protagonist that today was also his lucky day. As if he had sensed even a bit of martial art energy, the protagonist would have already been shattered into pieces. He then tried to remove the protagonist's hand from his head, but it wouldn't budge. San Shanwu was baffled, as the protagonist wasn't moving at all despite his efforts. Even Robert and the captain were confused. Realizing raw strength wasn't enough, San Shanwu activated his internal energy drive system, unleashing his Blood Wolf demon art at maximum level. He furiously ordered the protagonist to stop messing around, exuding a terrifying amount of magic energy. Everyone was shocked, including his underlings. Yet, the protagonist calmly returned to the captain and Robert, unaffected by San Shanwu's outburst of power. Even San Shanwu couldn't believe his eyes. The captain remarked that San Shanwu didn't seem to be in good shape. San Shanwu, still in disbelief, demanded the protagonist's identity, shocked that he was still alive despite the intent to kill with his outburst of power. When he tried to pull up the protagonist's details, he found that everything was unconfirmed. His gender, internal energy, and martial arts were not registered in the system. San Shanwu couldn't fathom how a pure natural being with 0 internal energy could still be alive after receiving such an attack. The protagonist observed that Sanshan Wu had used the Blood Wolf Demon art, noting it was one of the lower-level martial arts among the heavenly demon body cultivation arts. He commended that it had been passed down until now, but lamented that Sanshan Wu's internal energy and chi were not in harmony, suggesting a flaw in the training method. The protagonist offered to correct it personally, stepping forward, but Sanshan Wu called him a lunatic. He activated his energy to kill, and used his Red Wolf Demon Claw to attack. The protagonist dodged effortlessly, not even taking a step. Sanshan Wu launched multiple slashes, but it was futile. He couldn't touch even the protagonist's clothes. He switched techniques, Red Wolf Explosion, Red Wolf Tremor Wave, and Red Wolf Ghost Claw, but nothing worked. The protagonist, faster than Sanshan Wu could imagine, observed his strengths and weaknesses while dodging. He noted that Sanshan Wu had enough internal energy and precise form, but something was wrong. As Sanshan Wu tried to strike again, the protagonist grabbed his head and slammed it into the ground, telling him to stop with his nonsense as his skills were crude. Everyone in the inn was in disbelief, unable to process what they were witnessing. The protagonist advised Sanshan Wu that true martial arts weren't just about imitation, but adaptation and making them your own. He then told him to get up if he understood, but there was no response. How could he expect him to get up after such a forceful slam? Sanshan Wu's underlings, also in disbelief, rushed to take down the protagonist for daring to lay a hand on their platoon leader. What happened next was brutal. Some unknown hours later, in the Heavenly Demon Sect District 32, the brutal scene from the inn was replayed. It was shocking. Even the commander of District 32, Yang Ritach, couldn't believe his eyes. Sanshan Wu and his underlings were knocked out cold. The District 32 commander, Yang Ritach, found the occurrence unbelievable as he watched the footage from the inn's camera. The man who came to report the incident informed him that fortunately, Sanshan Wu and his squad only suffered severe bruising, and their lives were not in danger. However, Ritak didn't consider it a fortunate event, as they had miserably lost a fight against an unknown stranger. The man who reported the incident was the senior elder of District 32, Joe Chunrock. Ritak asked Chunrock if it was true that the protagonist wasn't registered in the Martial Alliance database. Chunrock confirmed, but noted that his companions were registered. They were a group of bounty hunters known as S-Devils, who mainly cleaned up B-class or lower petty criminals. The team was led by a person named Sir Young, nicknamed the Blazing Devil, a well-known bounty hunter straddling both the orthodox and unorthodox worlds. Although the group had left the Wild Crane Inn after the incident, they could still be tracked. Chunrock then asked the commander if they should send a pursuit team, but the commander replied that he would handle it personally. The commander stepped forward and pressed a green button in front of him. A screen displayed someone who appeared before him. The person addressed the commander, saying, "It's been a while. Is there perhaps a request you have for our Greenwood group?" Sometime later, the captain and her crew were navigating their ship through the Milky Way. Our protagonist sat at the table, holding a knife and fork, waiting for his meal. Meanwhile, the captain and Robert stood in front of him, observing in silence. Breaking the quiet, Robert said, "Be honest, you're just as scared as I am right now." But the captain, unaware of what he meant, asked for clarification. Robert then expressed his amazement at how strong the protagonist was, recalling how he single-handedly took down Sanshan Wu and the entire Red Wolf platoon with one blow, despite them being A-rank martial artists. The captain, with a hint of pride, boasted, "I could beat them too if I got serious. Sure, they're A-rank, but they're at the lowest level of it." Robert, less confident, added, "Maybe I could scratch them a bit if I put my life on the line," but he swatted them aside like flies. The captain then walked over to the protagonist, slamming her hand on the table and said firmly, "We need to talk." The protagonist, looking at her seriously, responded, "I'll talk only if there's food." Ignoring his demand, the captain sat down, crossed her legs, and insisted, "We talk first, food later." She continued, "What's your name?" Robert, standing nearby, advised her to use honorifics, but she dismissed him and repeated her question, "Are you deaf? What's your name?" Still, there was no response. Just then, Sunja arrived with a tray full of sausages. The protagonist's eyes followed the food, but the captain quickly warned, "Don't even think about eating until we're done talking." She asked his name again, but once more, silence followed. Robert, sensing the tension, suggested letting him eat in peace, saying, "You shouldn't even bother a dog while it's eating." Yet the captain remained firm, determined to get her answers. After a brief pause, the protagonist finally spoke. "My name is Lee Makin." The captain, curious about Muchin's past, asked, "What's your identity? Or what did you do before?" For a moment, there was only silence. Then, in a calm voice, Muchin replied, "My past profession was the Supreme Heavenly Demon." The captain was stunned. "Did you just say Supreme? What? Did we feed you bad hot dogs or something?" Before they could dwell on it, the ship's emergency alarm suddenly blared, catching everyone off guard. The captain and Robert, alarmed, had no idea what was happening. Sunja, who was in charge of the ship's security, informed them that they were being targeted at close range. The captain rushed to the controls, muttering, "I knew it! It must be the Heavenly Demon Sect coming for revenge because Muchin beat up the Red Wolf platoon." But Sunja corrected her, revealing, It's not the heavenly demon sect, it's the Greenwood. Their ship was now surrounded by multiple fleets, and on one of the ships stood the leader of the Galaxy Division of the 72 strongholds of Greenwood, known as the Black Tiger of the Crescent Moon, Kim Sam-bom. A crew member reported to Sam-bom that they had confirmed the S-Devil ship and had surrounded the bounty target. He then asked if they should fire the EMP capture round, but Sam-bom remained silent for a moment, contemplating. He asked whether the ship truly belonged to bounty hunters, and the crew member confirmed that their investigation revealed that the crew mainly operated on the outskirts of the galaxy, led by someone called the Blazing Devil, Sir Young. Sam-bom was puzzled, wondering why the Heavenly Demon sect would bother with such a small group. The bounty wasn't to capture Sir Young's crew, but to erase them completely. He suspected something was amiss, and knew Chunrock of the Heavenly Demon sect had ulterior motives. Despite his doubts, he was aware that a trap could be waiting on the S-Devil ship. Back on Sir Young's ship, she wasn't intimidated by the Greenwood fleet. They're just here to rob us, she reasoned confidently. Robert, however, disagreed. They wouldn't bring such a large fleet if they were just planning to rob us. We don't have anything worth stealing. Understanding the situation, Sir Young confidently declared, "Doesn't matter. If they get in our way, we'll beat them down and toss them aside." Sunja, though, cautioned her that defeating the Greenwood fleet wouldn't be so simple. They're part of the Galaxy Division of Greenwood, and it looks like the entire division has been mobilized. Sir Young was shocked. The whole Galaxy Division? Does that mean the Black Tiger, Kim Sam-bom, is here too? She admitted that even she couldn't easily defeat Sam-bom. Robert, concerned, added, "You wouldn't last 3 moves against him." Trying to mask her unease, Sir Young retorted, "It's not that bad. I could still put up a fight if I really tried." Despite the gravity of the situation, Robert suggested that they surrender. "We've got nothing to lose at this point," he reasoned. After a moment of reflection, Sir Young issued her orders. "Let them fire the EMP capture round. We'll allow them to board and search the ship. If they want anything unnecessary for survival, we'll give it to them." Robert was stunned, exclaiming, "How is this different from surrendering?" Amidst the unfolding chaos, Muchin seemed lost in thought, mesmerized by the stunning view outside the ship. Sir Young approached him, patting his shoulder as she reassured him. "The ship will shake when the EMP hits, but don't panic. There won't be any destructive force because of the space laws." Uninterested in her warnings, Muchin remained silent, and Sir Young left him alone. As she walked away, she asked Sunja if the ship had already been locked on. To her shock, Sunja revealed that what they were firing wasn't an EMP, it was a photon cannon, designed to destroy their ship. Panic spread across the ship as they realized that the photon cannon was intended to obliterate them. Over on the Greenwood ship, a crew member warned Sam-bom that using the photon cannon violated space regulations, but Sam-bom dismissed his concerns. "Blow them to dust," he ordered coldly, confident that they could shift the blame onto the Heavenly Demon sect. Back on Sir Young's ship, panic took hold. She desperately asked if they could warp out of there, but Sunja shook her head. "No, we're surrounded on all sides." Sir Young then asked if they could block the attack with their shields, but Sunja admitted, "The shields aren't working. We sold parts of the ship to cover living expenses." Defeated, Sir Young muttered, "Damn it, we're doomed." At that moment, the photon cannon fired. The crew braced themselves for death, their last hope extinguished. The energy from the cannon surged toward the ship, and they prepared for the worst. But to their surprise, another ship blocked the blast. It was a massive vessel, far larger than their own, and it belonged to a girl known as Elena, famously referred to as the 8th-foot fighting ghost. Sir Young, Robert, and Machen were shocked to see Elena appear. Even Sun-bom had no idea why she was there. The ship driver informed Sun-bom that the shield Elena used to block their attack was a terraformation-grade shield. Although it was powerful, the driver mentioned they could penetrate it by maxing out the photon cannon output. He asked Sun-bom if they should recharge, but Sun-bom dismissed the idea. Starting a space war just to deal with a cockroach wasn't wise, especially since Elena wasn't someone they could handle easily. Instead, he ordered the driver to activate the teleportation system so he could meet her. Sun-bom wondered why such a monster like Elena had appeared. Meanwhile, Robert was still stunned. Elena, the famously unpredictable 8-foot fighting ghost, was an S-rank bounty hunter, feared even by the leaders of major sects. He asked Sir Young if she knew why Elena was here, but she didn't. What puzzled them more was the fact that Elena had saved them. Had she not blocked the photon cannon, everyone aboard the S-Devil ship would have been atomized by now. Sun-bom teleported out of his ship to greet his sister, Elena. "Long time no see, sister," he said. But Elena remained silent. Sun-bom tried again. "Surely you haven't forgotten me, have you? I'm your 55th younger brother, Kim Sun-bom. I even greeted you at our mother's birthday 2 years ago." Elena, uninterested, told him to get lost. Surprised, Sun-bom decided to introduce himself more formally, not as her brother, but as the leader of the Galaxy Division of the 72 strongholds of Greenwood. He told her that dismissing him was equivalent to dismissing Greenwood, and he couldn't accept that. But Elena didn't respond. Instead, she released her aura, preparing for battle. Robert, watching from the ship, sensed the tension. but Sir Young warned him it wouldn't be an easy fight. Even for Greenwood, Elena was untouchable. If they were unlucky, her mother, the lioness, might also join the fray. Robert had no idea what she meant by the lioness. Sunbomb, knowing what was at stake, immediately surrendered. "Relax," he told her. "I don't want to fight." He understood that any battle would only end in a loss, and fighting over something as trivial as taking down the S-Devil ship wasn't worth it. He offered a peaceful resolution, even asking Elena if the S-Devil ship was her target, willing to yield it to her. But Elena once again told him to get lost and walked toward the ship. Sunbomb suspected something was off with the S-Devil ship, wondering why someone like Elena would bother with such a useless vessel. As Elena approached the ship, she announced through the speaker, "Hand it over or everyone dies." Sir Young, puzzled, asked, "What is she talking about?" Robert thought she was after their ship as well, asking Sir Young if she had hidden something valuable, but both knew they didn't have anything worth an S-rank bounty hunter's interest. Sir Young asked Mokshin if he knew Elena, maybe from a past fling or a breakup, but Mokshin denied it, suspecting the real reason was the child. They turned around but didn't see anyone. Mokshin, with a calm voice, said, "Show yourself, child. There's nothing to fear." Suddenly, a girl appeared from the shadows, revealing herself from concealment. Robert and Sir Young couldn't believe their eyes. Mokshin explained that the girl had followed them from the inn, and he let her be because while she had presence, she had no form. He was impressed by the advanced technique she used, concealing herself and her breathing. Sunja clarified, though, that it wasn't martial arts, but a stealth ring quantum technology, and expensive at that. Sir Young wasn't concerned about the ring's price. She demanded to know who the girl was and why she'd snuck onto the ship. The girl stuttered, introducing herself as Yanhua Rin, but Sir Young cut her off, uninterested in her name. She asked if Rin was the target of the people outside, and Rin replied, "Probably. As long as I'm alive, they won't stop coming." Robert immediately recognized her. "Pronosian," he exclaimed. Sir Young, confused, asked what he meant. Robert excitedly explained that she was the main vocalist of the galaxy's top rookie idol duo, Pronosian. He pulled out his phone, searched her name, and proudly showed Sir Young her profile. "She's even prettier in person, and she's from Mount Hua just like me. I even know her blood type and allergies." Elena, speaking through the speaker again, gave them 10 minutes to hand over the girl, or everyone would die. Despite the tension, there was no panic in the crew. Robert asked Rin why they were after her, but she stayed silent. Sir Young, fed up, told Rin that her presence had nothing to do with them, so she needed to leave. Despite Robert's protests, Sir Young, as captain, made the call. Rin was placed at the door, ready to be delivered outside. Robert, watching through a small hole, told Sir Young he didn't think sending Rin out was the right decision, reminding her of Rin's status as the lead vocalist of Pronosian. Sir Young insisted that they couldn't protect her, not against Greenwood or Elena. Even if they fought, Rin's fate wouldn't change, but theirs would. They would all die. With a heavy heart, Sir Young pressed the button to close the door. As she struggled with her decision, a hand rested on her shoulder. It was Mokshin. Rin was surprised to see him, and Mokshin reassured her, "Didn't I tell you not to worry? I'll protect you." Meanwhile, Sir Young and Robert were dumbfounded. Sir Young panicked, trying to stop the door from opening, but it was too late. Robert told her to wait and see what happens, suggesting that Mokshin might defeat Elena. But Sir Young, horrified, said, "Are you insane? I'm not worried about the fight. I'm worried he went into space without protection." She frantically told Sunja to close the gate, but it was already too late. The ship's door opened, and Sir Young muttered in disbelief, "This is insane." Rin thanked Mokshin for escorting her out, but warned him to be careful, as Elena and Sunbom were strong martial artists. However, to her surprise, something strange began happening to Mokshin. His eyes turned red, and he looked like he wanted to throw up. At first, Rin couldn't understand why, but then she realized Mokshin wasn't using a shield. He began coughing and breathing heavily. Even Elena and Sunbom were clueless about what was happening. Mokshin's face suddenly swelled, as though immense pressure was crushing him from all sides. His struggle lasted only a few seconds before his expression froze, and he collapsed, unconscious. Sir Young arrived just in time, her face pale with worry as she quickly placed a device over his face and activated a nano-shield. She anxiously whispered for him to wake up, to breathe if he was still alive. To her astonishment, Mokshin opened his eyes as though nothing had happened at all. Confused, he demanded to know what she was doing, but Sir Young, flustered, withdrew her hands, unable to admit her concern. Her pride wouldn't allow him to see how scared she had been. She quickly covered her feelings with irritation, asking him if he had lost his mind for stepping outside without a shield. After all, the temperature was a bone-chilling -300 degrees, and the crushing pressure would destroy his internal organs in mere seconds. Mokshin simply looked at her with calm amusement. He assured her that she worried for nothing. He was the supreme being of heaven and earth, and nothing in this world could endanger his life. His tone was relaxed, almost teasing, but Sir Young's eyes were still clouded with lingering concern. Meanwhile, Robert, watching the situation unfold from a distance, was silently grateful that Sir Young wasn't too late in providing Mokshin with a shield. Sunja, however, disagreed sharply, pointing out that Sir Young had, in fact, been very late. No master, no matter how skilled, could survive unprotected in space for more than a minute. Yet Mokshin had endured it for 6 minutes and 13 seconds. Moreover, all his organs were completely normal, defying all human limits. His abilities far exceeded what anyone could have predicted. As they made their way toward the meeting place where Elena and Sunbom awaited, Sir Young couldn't help but feel the overpowering aura radiating from Elena. It was undeniable. This was a woman obsessed with combat, a true fighting maniac. Sunbom also exuded an intimidating presence, though more restrained. Upon arriving, Sir Young warned Mokshin not to cause any trouble and to let her handle the situation. She took a deep breath, her usual confidence returning, and addressed Elena and Sunbom with a smirk. "Nice to finally meet you. I've heard a lot about you, but seeing you in person is far better," she said, her tone dripping with superiority. She then introduced herself, announcing she was Sir Young, the leader of the S-Devils, known as the Blazing Devil. To her annoyance, neither Elena nor Sunbom seemed the least bit interested in her words. Their expressions remained blank, as if they hadn't even heard her. At the same time, Rin clutched Mokshin's hand. Fear etched across her face. Mokshin gently reassured her, telling her there was no need to worry while he was with her. But Rin couldn't shake the fear. She whispered that Elena wasn't just any opponent. She was a fighting ghost. A woman who had spent her entire life traveling the world in search of opponents to fight. No one had ever survived an encounter with her. She had even constructed a spaceship just to serve as a combat arena. Mokshin was intrigued. A young woman so fiercely dedicated to martial training was a rare and remarkable talent. As Sir Young continued trying to defuse the situation, urging Elena to talk peacefully, Elena remained unfazed. "I only speak through my sword," she declared coldly, before sending a wave of sword energy flying straight towards Sir Young. The attack was sudden, and for a moment, everything was engulfed in smoke. When the dust cleared, Sir Young had jumped back to the ship, unharmed, though visibly shaken. She shouted at Elena, furious at the unexpected assault. "I said we should talk. Why the hell are you swinging your weapon without warning?" she demanded, her voice trembling with both anger and shock. Sunbom observed the exchange with interest, impressed by Sir Young's ability to dodge such a powerful attack. Though it hadn't been Elena's full strength, the attack was still far from easy to evade. He silently mused that while Sir Young had shown great skill, it might have been wiser not to provoke Elena. Elena, like a mad scorpion, only grew more dangerous the longer she was goaded, and her strikes would become even deadlier. But what truly stunned everyone present was seeing Mokshin and Rin standing there completely unharmed. Rin, coughing from the dust, was gently soothed by Mokshin. He tapped her back lightly, telling her not to be frightened by such trivial matters. To him, the grandiose attack was nothing more than a flashy firecracker. Sunbom, still trying to make sense of the scene, was confused. Based on Mokshin's position, he should have been hit by Elena's attack. How had he emerged without so much as a scratch? Elena, now fully alert and realizing Mokshin's mysterious strength, began to prepare for another strike. She chose her next move carefully, sensing that Mokshin was no ordinary opponent. He stepped forward, disregarding Sir Young's earlier warning to stay out of the fight. Addressing Elena, Mokshin said, "Child, if you have business with Rin, you'll have to go through me. She is under my protection, and any matters concerning her are now my responsibility." Sunbom attempted to scan Mokshin's data but found nothing. No identification, no internal energy drive. He wondered if Mokshin was an unknown natural from the outskirts, someone completely off the grid. Elena, unfazed by Mokshin's words, launched another attack, the collision sending shockwaves through the air. For a brief moment, no one could tell what had happened. When the dust settled, they were shocked to see Mokshin standing there, unscathed, having blocked Elena's spear with just one hand. He looked at her calmly and asked, "Is the reason you came to fight me?" Sunbom was utterly speechless. Mokshin had deflected the blow from Elena, the infamous fighting ghost, without even using internal energy. Mokshin, still intrigued by her abilities, noted that Elena was channeling the Shaolin's great Brahma divine art for her internal energy. He was impressed not only by her strength, but by how young she was, already surpassing the internal energy of 3 cycles. She was far more powerful than anyone her age had any right to be. Determined, Elena increased her internal energy drive to 90%, then 95%. Both Mokshin and Sunbom watched, impressed by her flawless ability to shift between techniques and energy levels. Realizing she was going all out, Mokshin decided it was time to get serious. Elena, sensing the shift, powered up again, pushing her energy to its limits. She charged at Mokshin with renewed force, but he dodged every strike effortlessly. She switched techniques, using everything from the sun and moon twin wheels of the Kunlun sect to the sun-piercing spear technique. Yet Mokshin remained untouchable, as though he were merely toying with her. Frustrated, Elena pushed her energy drive to 170%, her attacks becoming more ferocious, combining multiple devastating techniques. Yet Machin continued to evade her strikes with ease, as if her efforts were nothing more than child's play. Finally, Machin decided it was time to end the battle. With a casual swing of his hand, he unleashed an attack, and the resulting explosion rocked the entire ship. Smoke filled the air, obscuring everything in sight. When the smoke cleared, Elena had transformed yet again. This time, her energy drive surged to 190%, and she charged at Machin, intent on finishing the battle. Just as she was about to strike, Machin communicated with her telepathically, urging her to stop. He warned her that while her talent was impressive, she had crossed the line. Her transcendental awakening had brought her too close to her inner demons, and if she continued, he would have no choice but to kill her to protect Rin. But Elena, blinded by her desire to fight, ignored his warning. Machin, realizing she wouldn't stop, summoned his heart sword. As Elena charged at him, determined to fight to the death, Machin swung his sword. The impact was immense. Light exploded from their clash, and the force of their collision destroyed the ship they were on. The power released was more devastating than a photon cannon. The Greenwood ship operator could hardly believe his eyes. The explosion that erupted before him was so sudden and catastrophic that it left him momentarily frozen in shock. Some bomb, caught in the chaos, managed to teleport back to his ship at the exact spot from which he had first departed. However, his escape had been far from clean. His body was severely injured, and he had barely escaped with his life. The ship had exploded while he was still aboard, a fact that made his survival all the more miraculous. Struggling to his feet, he reassured the driver not to worry about him, insisting that he was still alive, though he admitted with a hint of grim humor that if the teleport had been just 0.1 seconds later, he would have been torn to pieces. Meanwhile, amidst the wreckage of the exploded ship, Sir Young was incredulous, turning to Machin with exasperation. "Are you insane?" she demanded. "You almost killed us all!" She scolded him for his lack of restraint, pointing out that even in the most heated moments of the past, no one in their right mind would set their own ship on fire out of anger. But Machin, bleeding from his mouth, responded in a low voice that restraint hadn't been an option. As he spoke, he winced in pain, and Sir Young, noticing for the first time that he was hurt, was taken aback. He explained that the injuries were the result of facing a power far greater than he had anticipated. Together, they both gazed upward at the sight of Elena's floating body, her shield shattered and her equipment broken. Sir Young, still processing the scene, asked if Elena was dead. Machin, shaking his head, assured her that she was not dead, at least, not yet. A stronger force had protected her. The source of that protection became apparent as they noticed a figure who seemed almost divine in her beauty, as if an angel had descended from heaven itself. Sir Young's eyes widened in recognition. The woman before them was none other than the West Heaven Sword matron, Sam Baum, and Elena's mother. Hours passed, and Elena was placed in a liquid chamber to aid in her recovery. Behind her, Machin and the others stood, observing silently. Sam Baum, on his knees before his mother, was showing her deep respect. With a voice filled with reverence, he apologized, explaining that he hadn't known she would arrive. He asked her to punish him for his failure to show proper loyalty and filial piety. But the matron dismissed his concerns, stating that his opinions were irrelevant at that moment. She instructed him to act as though he wasn't even there. Turning her attention to Machin, she offered a polite greeting, introducing herself as the West Heaven Sword Matron. Both Sambam and Sir Young were stunned to witness her showing such deference to Machin. Even Sir Young could hardly believe that the West Heaven Sword Matron, one of the most feared and respected figures in their world, would show anyone such courtesy. The matron then acknowledged that she had violated the martial arts dueling code by intervening, driven by her deep familial love for Elena. She told Machin that she was prepared to make amends by cutting off her arm if that was what he desired. Machin, however, refused, stating that there was no need for such a gesture. He then inquired if Elena was truly her daughter. Sir Young immediately cautioned him to speak more respectfully, reminding him of who the matron was, one of the 5 immortals, feared across the world for her short temper and lethal glare. The matron confirmed that Elena was indeed her daughter. Machin, in turn, reassured her that her decision to intervene wasn't wrong, as family should always take precedence over the dueling code. Once again, Sir Young nervously reminded him to mind his tone, warning that the matron could easily split someone in two with just a glance. To everyone's surprise, the matron then dropped to her knees asking for forgiveness. Sometime later, outside the ship, the matron shared her concern with Machin, explaining that she still did not understand why her daughter had not regained consciousness. She also mentioned that Elena had passed through Mount Hua before their fight, likely on a mission to attack the S-Devil ship. The matron also noticed something unsettling. Machin's martial arts technique resembled the Demon Heart Sura sword technique. She asked if he had any connection to the Heavenly Demon sect. Machen responded with measured words, stating that there had once been a connection, but time corrodes even the strongest bonds, dissolving them like iron left to rust. The matron, gazing at him in silence, couldn't help but be impressed by his extraordinary skills. She noted that his chi, internal energy, and martial arts were refined to a level she had never seen before, and what was even more astonishing was that he appeared to be in his early 20s. She pondered if this could be the result of rejuvenation. After a brief pause, the matron asked if she could make a request of him. Machen, sensing her intentions, calmly replied, "Are you proposing a serious fight?" The matron, startled by his accuracy, confirmed that every word she spoke was laced with a deadly intent, much like a sword sharpened against a whetstone. Machen, unfazed, warned her that while he never refused a challenge, she should be aware that if they fought, one of them would surely die, and the survivor would be severely wounded. Strength without flexibility is doomed to break. The matron, understanding the wisdom in his words, unleashed her energy but hesitated when Machen questioned whether they truly had a reason to fight. His question surprised her, and after a moment's thought, she retracted her energy, deciding that there was no need for a battle, at least not yet. The S-Devil ship left soon after. Later, Sambam informed the matron that the Heavenly Demon sect had requested the destruction of the S-Devil ship, and it was meant to be a silencing kill. The matron found this puzzling. Why would the sect want Machen dead, especially when he clearly wielded the supreme martial arts of their sect? Even more confusing was why they would involve Greenwood in the matter. Sambam suggested that it might be connected to the recent annihilation of the Heavenly Demon's Red Wolf platoon by an unknown entity, but the matron dismissed his speculation, telling him that overthinking the situation wouldn't yield any answers. She instead ordered him to prove his usefulness by tracking the S-Devil ship and reporting back. Sambam, swelling with pride, assured her that Greenwood was the best in the world at tracking. The matron, after a moment's silence, agreed to trust him, but warned him not to interfere as she didn't want her child to get hurt. Sambam, touched by her concern, was caught off guard when she suddenly asked, "By the way, what's your name again?" His heart sank. How could his own mother forget his name? Meanwhile, back on the S-Devil ship, Sir Young furiously interrogated Rin, demanding to know how she had gotten herself involved with Greenwood, the 8-foot fighting ghost, and Elena. And to make matters worse, she had somehow drawn the West Heaven Sword matron into the chaos. "What on earth did you do?" Sir Young asked, still in disbelief. Once the situation calmed down, Rin apologized for the trouble she had caused. She explained that she honestly didn't know why everyone was after her. Everything had changed when she returned to her hometown, Mount Hua, after her tour. Though the people were the same, they all seemed to be out to kill her, leaving her no choice but to flee to the S-Devil ship. As Machen munched furiously on snacks, Sir Young turned to Sunja, asking if she could make sense of Rin's story. But even Sunja admitted she found it confusing. Suddenly, Robert slammed the table with force, demanding, "Did you just say Mount Hua? Do you mean the Mount Hua planet, my hometown?" His voice was urgent as he asked Rin to explain what had happened. But before Rin could answer, she was overcome with disgust at Moken's eating habits and threw up. At the same time, in the room where Elena was being treated, Elena awoke, breaking free from the healing tube and gasping for breath. The matron watching her immediately asked, "Tell me, what happened at Mount Hua?" At that very moment, in the Wild Crane Inn, Wang and his companions were watching footage of Mochen and Elena's fierce battle. They were astonished at the intensity of the fight, and Wang couldn't help but remember a conversation with Sir Young, where she had asked how much a full collection of 2,000-year-old martial arts manuscripts, all original and S-rank, would be worth. Wang murmured to himself that if Sir Young's claim was true, they were on the verge of making a fortune. At the Heavenly Demon sect in District 32, Ritak couldn't believe his eyes as he watched Mokshin and Elena's battle clip. The display of martial prowess was beyond anything he had ever imagined. As the scene played out, someone beside him said, "What do you think? Isn't it a familiar martial art?" Ritak turned to see that the speaker was none other than the sword matron. With a serious expression, he acknowledged the overwhelming skill on display, but confessed that he couldn't understand why she thought the martial art Mokshin used seemed familiar. The matron merely stared at him for a moment, as if assessing his ignorance. Internally, she mused to herself, "It seems he really doesn't know anything about Mokshin." Out loud, she pressed further, "Then why did you pursue that person, especially with Greenwood's involvement?" Ritak stiffened and retorted, "It's an internal matter of the sect. Even if you are the sword matron, ruler of the West Heaven Cosmic Code, this is not something you should be concerning yourself with." Before Ritak could react, the matron's sword was at his throat. The slash was so swift that it took a moment for Ritak to realize that his neck had been cut, blood trickling slowly from the wound. Though it wasn't deep, the sheer precision left him momentarily stunned. He grabbed at his neck and demanded, "Are you declaring war against the Heavenly Demon sect?" The matron smiled wickedly, her presence radiating an aura of pure dominance. "Do you think I, of all people, fear bloodshed?" she asked. her words slicing deeper than her blade. At that moment, Ritak was reminded of the rumors that this was a woman who had devoured her own children in her obsessive pursuit of martial arts mastery. She wasn't someone who weighed profit and loss, she simply acted. As her sword energy flared, the air became thick with an overwhelming force that seemed capable of splitting oceans and slicing through mountains. "Answer me or die," she said coldly. Faced with the undeniable difference in their power, Ritak realized the futility of resisting. "Isn't the choice obvious?" he replied bitterly. "Even if all 1,076 martial artists of District 32 were to attack together, they wouldn't stand a chance against the West Heaven Sword Matron." Despite his fear, Ritak activated his own energy, preparing for the inevitable battle. "If you're going to kill us all, you should start cutting them down now," he challenged. The matron's eyes narrowed. To herself, she mused, "So the rumors are true. The heavenly demon sect grows stronger with each passing day." But aloud, she said, "The technique Machin used. It's the Demon Heart Sura sword technique." Ritak's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible! The Demon Heart Sura sword has been a lost martial art for thousands of years. It exists only in legends. No one in our sect has ever practiced it." But the matron remained unfazed. "If your knowledge is lacking, that's not my problem," she replied coolly. "But I'm telling you what I know." She leaned in closer, her voice dangerously low. "Now tell me, why did you send the kill order for Mokshin?" Ritak hesitated for a moment, struggling for words. Finally, he confessed, "I wasn't chasing Mokshin. I was after the girl, Rin." Hours later, in the Talavitra orbiting star system, the S-Devil ship arrived at Mount Hua planet. Scanning the surface through surveillance, Sir Young was perplexed. The town below seemed completely deserted. "Why does it look empty? Is it a holiday or something?" she asked. But Robert, scrutinizing the open store doors, replied with concern, "I don't think that's the case. The town is supposed to have over 10,000 inhabitants, yet there's no sign of life at all." Sunja chimed in, adding, "Something's wrong. Either everyone fled or something terrible has happened." Suddenly, Robert grew agitated, shaking Sir Young. "We need to get down there, fast!" he exclaimed. When she asked why he was so on edge, his response was simple. "This is my hometown." Meanwhile, Rin stood on the surface of Mount Hua, her eyes wet with tears. Mokshin turned to her and asked, "Do you know something? Speak up." But before Rin could respond, Sunja interrupted. "I've detected a life signal. It's coming from inside Mount Hua's main headquarters, the Jaha Pavilion." Sir Young's eyes widened in surprise. "The Jaha Pavilion? That's where the leader of the Mount Hua sect resides." Sunja confirmed that while there was only one life form, its energy was immense. Rin seemed to know something but remained silent, leading the group towards the pavilion. The pavilion was enveloped in a thick, eerie fog, obscuring all but a few glimpses of its structure. As they approached, Sir Young glanced at Robert. "Why'd you suit up like that?" she asked, referring to his combat gear. Robert, never one to shy away from a fight, replied, "I came here to protect my homeland. Even if I'm retired, I'm still a Special Forces soldier." Sir Young then turned to Sunja. "Are you still detecting the signal?" Sunja nodded. "Yes, but it's getting stronger by the second. Whatever's in there, it might not be human." Hearing this, Robert rushed ahead, eager to confront the unknown threat. Suddenly, an intense burst of fire energy shot towards them from within the tunnel. The heat was overwhelming, but Machin reacted quickly, saving them from certain death. Sir Young, thrown to the ground in the chaos, was in shock. "What the hell was that?" she muttered, trying to regain her bearings. Meanwhile, Robert was found lying in a cloud of smoke, having also taken the brunt of the attack. Sir Young, worried, asked Sunja, "Is he dead?" Sunja shook her head. "No, he's fine. The combat armor did its job. He's probably just scared stiff." Machin, standing tall, surveyed their surroundings. Before them, plum blossoms began to bloom, filling the air with their fragrance. At the center of the room stood a man exuding an almost terrifying amount of energy. Sunja confirmed, "That's the source of the life form signal." If her data was correct, the man before them was none other than the leader of Mount Hua, the flourishing blossom sword sovereign, young Jack San. Machin gazed at the blossoms. The fact that the plum blossoms are opening from the heat means he's achieved the peak of the plum blossom heavenly fragrance heart technique, he mused. However, something was off. But why are they blooming purple? Machin wondered. After a brief moment of reflection, he realized that the plum blossom heavenly fragrance technique must have fused with the purple mist divine art. If that were true, things were about to get a whole lot more dangerous.